Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you all for joining. We are going to start a new chapter today, and that is chapter number 7 of the Bhagavad Gita, which is entitled Knowledge of the Absolute. Verse number 1. Shri Bhagavano Vacha Maya Saktamanaha Partha Yogam Yunjanmad Ashrayaha Asamshayam Samagrammam Yatha Gnasya Sitachranu. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt." Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmanitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So once again, thank you all so much for joining. And this chapter entitled Knowledge of the Absolute. Absolute means the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Now, from this chapter, we will understand how important it is to hear the Bhagavad Gita. You know, what are the benefits we can get just by hearing the Bhagavad Gita? So when I recited the Sanskrit verse, it said Shri Bhagavana Uvacha. That means the Supreme Lord said, which means this Bhagavad Gita is being spoken by the Supreme Lord himself, and that is Krishna. Now, in the Vedic scriptures, we get the information or reference or knowledge who is considered the Supreme Lord. And there is a very beautiful Sanskrit verse by Parashar Muni, and he says, Aishwarasya Samagrasya Viryasya Yashashriya. He gives the qualifications, you know, the 6 qualities. Whoever has those 6 qualities in full is considered to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna, he's not an ordinary person. He's not a historical personality. No, he is the Supreme Lord himself. So when we have that basic faith that Krishna is God, then we can accept the instructions that are given in the Bhagavad Gita. So what does he tell Arjuna in this verse, in the very first verse of this chapter? He says, Tat Shrunu, now hear. So Krishna wants Arjuna to hear attentively, to be able to start this step-by-step process towards self-realization. So just by hearing the Bhagavad Gita, we will be able to make our faith more firm, and we will be able to start progressing towards self-realization. Now, in this verse, Krishna is saying, Arjuna, you please practice bhakti yoga. And how? By full consciousness of me. Now, to be conscious of Krishna, we need to understand Krishna, or in other words, hear about him, or to know him, to see who is this Krishna, who is this Supreme Lord. So he's saying full consciousness of me. And when one starts practicing Bhagavad Gita, in the sense, starts doing mantra meditation, those sound vibrations help the person to start becoming conscious of Krishna. And then second point he says is mind attached to me. How can we attach the mind to Krishna? Now, we all have noticed in this world that our mind is attached always either to something or somebody, someone. And so for us to be, say for instance, you know, I am attached to my husband. Now, what is the reason for that? The reason is because there are things that I like about him. There are certain things that I love about him. And that is how my mind gets attached to my spouse. So similarly, for someone like Krishna is telling Arjuna, mind attached to me. Now, how can one attach one's mind to Krishna? By hearing about him, by hearing his glories, by hearing his pastimes, by hearing his instructions from the Bhagavad Gita. So and the first instruction he gives us in the Bhagavad Gita is to understand that I am not this body and I am a spirit soul. So when we start learning the Bhagavad Gita from chapter 1 onwards, gradually, excuse me, step by step, and at the same time, putting the Bhagavad Gita into practice, which means chanting on a daily basis. And then Krishna says, you will know me in full. So to be able to know Krishna in full, we have to practice bhakti yoga. We need to make sure that we are fully conscious of him. Our mind is attached to him. And guess what? The easy way to attach mind to Krishna is by mantra meditation. And then Krishna says, free from doubt. Then all the doubts will be removed gradually. So this chapter actually describes us how to become fully conscious of the Supreme Lord. And he also in this chapter describes his opulences. So for instance, my mother says that, okay, I want you to get married to Mr. X. Now, for me to have a relationship or an attachment for Mr. X, I need to know about him, right? What does he look like? Where does he live? Where does he work? What is his nature, etc., etc. So when we hear about the personality of Godhead, Krishna, then we will be able to really get attached to him, the mind attached to him. So he talks about his opulences. So the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita that we covered so far was dealing about the soul, the spirit soul, and how the spirit soul, which is encaged in this material body, can elevate itself to self-realization. Now, in the last chapter, the very last verse that we did of chapter 6, where Krishna says, Yogi nam api sarvesham madgatinantar atma. That he shows us how to become the topmost yogi by practicing bhakti yoga. So we see that all forms of yoga, they are stepping stones towards the highest rung of yoga ladder, which is bhakti yoga. So if we really want our mind to be attached, then we need to concentrate our mind on Krishna. And especially in Kali Yuga, it is noticed that people in Kali Yuga are generally very much in anxiety, disturbed, frustrated. Yes, some are happy, but that happiness also is short-lived. So in all those conditions, how can one concentrate or fix the mind on Krishna? How? Simply by chanting the holy names of the Lord. And when Krishna sees our sincere endeavors, he starts helping us. Like there is a saying, God helps those who help themselves. And what is the purpose of mantra meditation? Purification. Now in this verse, Krishna says, now hear. He wants us to first hear and then chant. So by hearing, purification takes place. And then whatever love we have within our hearts for the Lord, that starts getting revived. So by bhakti yoga, we gradually are able to transcend the 3 modes of material nature. All of us, we are operating in one of these 3 modes or a mixture of these modes. Either it's ignorance, passion, or goodness. But Bhagavad Gita teaches us how to transcend them and go to the level of pure goodness. At that level, it'll be possible to understand Krishna. How? By practicing bhakti yoga and to be able to put it into practice. Now, hearing Bhagavad Gita is good, but just hearing is not sufficient. So to put it into practice, one needs a bona fide teacher, someone who can train us on how we can somehow or the other control our mind and somehow or the other focus our mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, if we see verse number 2 of this same chapter, Knowledge of the Absolute, which is chapter number 7, excuse me, Krishna is continuing his instructions and he tells Arjuna that I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. In other words, Krishna is going to give full knowledge, full, absolutely full knowledge. And he says, once we take on or absorb this knowledge, then there is nothing more to be known. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, 5 subject matters are covered that actually help us in this material life. What are those subject matters? Who is God? Who are we? Are we the spirit souls or are we this body? What is this material nature? How does karma work? And the eternal time. These are the 5 subject matters that are covered in the Bhagavad Gita. But here in this verse, Krishna is saying that it is important to hear it from a teacher, take on this full knowledge, and then there is nothing more to be known. Now the question may arise, why is it that Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna? It's because Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, he says, because Arjuna was Krishna's devotee as well as his friend. Now in verse number 3, which is very, very important, Krishna says, Manushya nam sahasreshu kaschit yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschit mam veti tatvataha. This is in Sanskrit. What does it mean? Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and out of those who have attained perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. So imagine, out of thousands and thousands of men here also includes women. He is talking about people, human beings. Out of thousands, only one will try for perfection. And out of those who have worked really hard, taken on this knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, put it into practice and attain perfection, out of thousands of those perfectionists, Krishna says, hardly one knows me in truth. So it is not just our sincere endeavors that can help us to understand the Bhagavad Gita or even the Supreme Lord. No, we need the mercy of the Supreme Lord. We may endeavor for perfection, but it is up to the Supreme Lord to make to see how much we are endeavoring, what is the level of our sincerity and seriousness. You see, devotional service or bhakti yoga is very rare. It is said, Brahmanda Brahmiti Kona Bhagyavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. That seed of devotion is sown in the heart. There are many, many, many living entities in this universe. You know, they are being born and they die, and they are born and they die. They are going through this cycle of birth and death. But there are very, very few who get the opportunity to hear the Bhagavad Gita. Very, very few. It is not that you have come today to hear Bhagavad Gita because you saw the event posted on Facebook, or maybe your friends told you about this, or whatever the cause may be for you to hear. It is not just by chance. It is because we have accumulated a lot of piety in our previous lives or even in this life, that we have got the opportunity to hear Bhagavad Gita. That's why he's saying, out of thousands, only one will try for perfection. So to know the truth, we need to approach a bona fide spiritual master. Like in chapter 4, we understood, Tad vidhi pranipatena Pariprashnena sevaya upadakshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshina. Krishna is telling Arjuna, one must approach a bona fide spiritual master and learn, inquire submissively, and render service and inquire. And then that self-realized soul can impart knowledge because he has seen the truth. And that is what we are learning in this chapter, knowledge of the absolute truth. So to be able to understand Krishna, one needs to perform devotional service. And the purification comes when one practices bhakti yoga. It is not possible, absolutely not possible, to understand Bhagavad Gita or Krishna with our blunt senses. We need, they need to be purified. The mind needs to be purified. The intelligence need to be sharpened with the help of knowledge. So just reading Bhagavad Gita or hearing Bhagavad Gita is not possible to really understand. For instance, if I want to become a doctor, I cannot just open books on medicine, at home, open the books and start reading them and become a doctor. No, I need to enroll myself in a bona fide university. I need to qualify myself to get admission into it. And I need to hear from certified or bona fide professors, understand it, do some practicals, and then maybe I can become a doctor. So same applies for spirituality also. Taking on knowledge is good, but if we don't put it into practice, then that knowledge just remains dry philosophy. That's about it. And that is not going to really help us. That is why in every class, every Tuesday, I make it a point to talk about mantra meditation. What is mantra? Man means mind, tra means to free the mind from all anxieties. So when we chant the holy names on a daily basis, then we are able to control our mind, control our senses, sharpen our intelligence, and really start on the process of Bhakti Yoga towards self-realization. Now let's see what does Krishna say in verse number 4. He says, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. All together, these 8 constitute my separated material energies. So now he's going to start talking about his energies and also about his opulences, so that our mind can get attached to him. So these 8, now these are considered the energies of Krishna. And in other words, it's also called Prakriti. This material nature is in Sanskrit is called Prakriti, which is actually the energy of Krishna. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada very nicely explains how Krishna expands himself, the Supreme Lord, he expands himself into 3 Vishnus. So there is this Mahavishnu. Now this knowledge is a little bit on the higher level. You see books at the back that is called the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is the essence of the Vedas, all the Vedas. So it's called Srimad-Bhagavatam, and it talks about how Krishna, he expands himself into Mahavishnu, and then from Mahavishnu comes Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and then from Garbhodakshay Vishnu comes Kshirodakshay Vishnu, and this 3rd Vishnu, Kshirodakshay Vishnu, is situated in our hearts, in all living entities' hearts as the super soul. But the important point to understand is that this material nature, this Prakriti which is there, this material world, it is temporary. And this whole creation is being directed by these 3 Vishnus. So the material world, which is a quarter of the whole creation, is temporary, whereas the 3/4 is the spiritual world, which is permanent. There is no birth, death, old age, disease, nothing of that sort in the spiritual world. It's only here in the material world. Now in verse number 5, Krishna is telling Arjuna that besides these 8 energies, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mind, which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. So he's making it very clear, he's talking about us, living entities, the spirit souls in this material bodies. We are exploiting the material nature. So matter, we need to understand the matter is inferior, but the spirit soul is superior. And this matter is manifested in different elements like earth, water, fire, air, ether. And matter is able to move with the help of only the soul. Now let's take this body of mine, okay? This body of mine is able to move, like you can see my hands moving, only as long as the soul is inside the body. As soon as the soul leaves the body, the hands will not move. The body is considered to be dead. So who is moving the body? It is the spirit soul. So important to understand that soul is more important than the body. That's why the foundation of Bhagavad Gita is, I am not this body. And also to understand is that, yes, we are trying to control the body, but most of the time we fail to do that. And because we have forgotten this, that I am the spirit soul, I am this, we think I'm the body, that's why there is suffering. We've forgotten our eternal position, and due to false ego, we think I am everything. I'm the doer, I'm the controller, I'm the possessor, everything belongs to me, my family belongs to me, money belongs to me. Nothing belongs to us. We came empty-handed, we go empty-handed. We leave everything behind here, right? In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Prakrite kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasha ahankar vimuratma kartaham iti munyate. Due to false ego, the living entity thinks, I am the doer, I am the controller, but that is not the case. So we can see that this chapter is now gradually giving us knowledge about the material world, the material nature, the creation, and also about the energies of the Supreme Lord. But now let's see, what does he say in verse number 6? All created beings have their source in these two natures, of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world. Know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution. So here he's making it very clear. I'm the controller. I'm the one who creates, and I'm the one who even dissolves everything. So it's important to understand that Krishna is the source of everything. In fact, in chapter 10, we will see where Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mataha sarvam pravartate, that everything emanates from me. Krishna says, everything comes from me. All living entities come from me. So he is the origin, and he's also the source of dissolution. So spirit is eternal, but the matter is created by spirit. Body grows because the soul is within it. Now we all have noticed when we were little kids, our bodies were very small. They were growing, gradually a teenager and gradually an adult. So who was making this body grow? It was because of the soul within the body. So just as the body is important, the soul is more important. So when we feed the body every day, we need to feed the soul also every day. And the food for the soul is chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Those sound vibrations nourish the soul. They purify the body, they purify the senses, they purify the mind. So then we are able to really understand the Bhagavad Gita. So just as after every class, I, humbly request all of you to please try and chant on a daily basis. I'm going to post some links here if you would like to join, but at the end of it, you will see that that there is a Maha Mantra, a mantra that is, very, very powerful. It has the, what you can say, the potency of all the mantras in the Vedas. It is so very powerful, and it is recommended that we chant that, especially in this age, which is Kali Yuga. So it's my very humble request that all of you please try and chant this mantra, which is at the bottom. I'll just chant a few times, so that just to let you know how to chant. I think one or two of you are joining for the first time. So it's very, very simple. It just goes like this. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. So you see, it's very, very simple. So please try and chant. And when you start chanting, you will yourself notice the difference. You will see how the mind is becoming so peaceful, how the senses are not agitated anymore, how there is no more frustration. So it's my humble request, please try and chant, as much as possible. So I'm going to end here. I've done only till verse number 6. And if anyone has any questions or comments, you're welcome.